Oh, that was a boo-boo. Oh, well, here we are. That was not how it's supposed to go down. I was
That's
supposed to be
okay.
like, "Oh, here's our friend.
Nobody
Friend."
knows what it's supposed to look like but you.
Well, now everybody knows what it's supposed to look like. All right, friends, this is just how we roll. Welcome, everyone. It is supposed to be the three of us. There's our superstar. We'll bring him on. I'm going to take you off, Moni. All right, friends. Welcome to our new series. We finished up our what were we doing? Our authority series. So yay! So now we're starting a little mini series on the centers. So if you have your body graph, like bring them out right now. This is going to be a juicy one where you want to be following along to know which one you are and which one you aren't. So go do that now. I'm going to give you a minute. And yeah, so today we're going to go through the first three from top to bottom. And then as we go along, we'll do another three and then another three. So then you'll have a full picture of your body graph by the end of this series. So that's really exciting. And then one thing I do want to remind our guests is, if you're watching this on the replay, do give us a follow. Like it helps immensely. So please go do that if you're finding value in what we're doing. Like a lot of work goes into making these streams happen. So any sort of love thrown at us, we like gobble it all up. So please do that. We love you and love the fact that you're choosing to, spend your time watching us. Try to make human design more accessible to the peoples. So, without further ado, I will bring on my lovely co hosts, and then we are going to do a swap. But yeah, you don't need to see three different people at the same time. So, here we go. We have our lovely friend Moni and our resident guru
Reader.
Danny.
Hey, you.
We're here. So, I will give it away to you two. Hold on. Let me just get our title slide up. And then I will switch out. And Moni knows when that happens. All right, friends. Toodles.
Hi. Thanks,
Oh, I
Moana.
love
Hey.
this.
I
Thank you,
know, right?
Moana.
Hey, Danny.
I'm excited to do this. This is going to be great. This is important stuff, too.
Yeah, it's good, and it's always good to like revisit stuff. Like I feel like I can revisit the centers over and over again, and I'll always learn something a little different. I can listen to like Raw talk about like the same things, but you'll hear it a little differently, or you're a little bit further through your deconditioning process, and you have like another experience, and so like you bite and catch on to something else, and it like goes a little deeper every time. So it's always fun.
Absolutely. And to sort of bring it home for people who might be a little bit new, or as this word is getting out, this is the newest science on the plane, been around since the early 90s. And this, what you're looking at, what you're going to get out of this is master diagnostics on the things that you are and that you are not. And this is genetic. So it's in your core and you can't help it. It's what we're going to go through tonight will be very profound to certain people. And the best part is you can count on it. You can, I forget what movie this was in, but you can take that to the bank. Um, Oh my God, that was an awful Steven Seagal movie. Forget I said it, but anyway,
It was cute
moving
though.
on.
You're cute.
Yep,
Cool. So we're just going to go through starting off at talking about the 9 centers overall. So, and then we're going to go further into detail into the head, ajna, and throat after this section. So, first center we're going to talk about is the throat center, which is the manifestation center. The throat center is like a town square where all the energy comes together. It's like all roads lead to Rome. I believe there's like 11 channels like that come into the throat center. So like everything is trying to go from the top and the bottom out through the throat to like out existence into the world. The throat center helps us speak and express our thoughts and ideas. This center is crucial for manifesting our desires and communicating effectively. And it's also where our human intelligence finds its voice. You can think
mm,
of it as the center that gives us the power to express ourselves uniquely.
absolutely. Can I say one thing?
Yeah,
That
please.
it's all the roads lead to Rome, and later when we go over the various streams of awareness, you'll see they all dead end at the throat. That's why it's the center of expression, and it's the center of making us do stuff. Crucial for manifesting our desires and communications effectively. Absolutely. That was it.
That was great. That was interesting. It's I like how you said like the dead end, and I never thought of it that way. But it's like,
They
oh yeah,
end
that is
there.
like
They
everything's
don't
gonna
just
like
lead to Rome, they end
they
there.
end
You know
there.
what I mean?
That's like a different way of thinking about it. I love it.
Yep. So all the pressure from the pressure sandwich, the red and the root, they all pressure all this stuff and they all go straight to the throat. The only thing that doesn't experience that pressure is 2145.
Mm. That's interesting. So for our not self questions with the throat is, am I trying to get attention? Right. So the throat center, if it's undefined, if it's open, if it's not colored in on your chart, that means we're going to be picking up energy from like other people, other places. So other people's throat energy is going to be like amplified in us, and we're going to feel this like incredible pressure to blurt things out. So a thing that we can notice to pay attention to ourselves if that center is open for you is, am I trying to get attention? Am I trying to manifest something? Am I trying to make something happen? Am I pushing too hard?
Am I following the right timing? Am I speaking in the timing that's being listened to? Or am I forcing my speech? Am I saying too much? Am I shutting up when I didn't want to? All of this stuff. So meaning, am I concerning myself with that I'm speaking? Whereas the defined throat very often forgets to even concern itself that it's speaking. It just doesn't even concern itself. I mean, not always, but more so.
Cool. So the next ones we're going to be talking about is the head and the root because they're pressure centers, right? So the bottom of the root is pressuring us to do something, and from the top, the head center is pressuring us to think about stuff and ask questions. So the head and root, they're two pressure centers. They push energy towards the awareness centers. They'll be filtered through there, and then they continue on to the way to the throat. The head center helps us think and ask questions. It passes the energy to the ajna to find the answers. The root
Mm,
center, on the other side, conversely, gives us the drive to survive and move forward. And it also fuels our actions and our momentum in life. And
mm,
finally, this energy is refined by other centers before reaching the throat for communication or action.
mm, absolutely. And we're in a pressure sandwich. If you just look at it visually, pressure from above, pressure below, and it really is a pressure sandwich because if all the roads lead to Rome, they're all under pressure. Is the thing. If you're open in any of these centers, you've got a saying you get to say. You won't believe it at first, but it's not your pressure.
Hmm.
It's not your pressure. It's and that's yes, it is my pressure. That's who you're not speaking at that moment. It's incredible.
Hmm. And so then the not self questions for both centers. For the open head center, is it, am I trying to answer everyone else's questions? So if that's open for you, if that's white, not colored in on your chart, then you can pay attention. Like, am I trying to answer other people's questions? Or am I trying to answer questions that people aren't even asking, or being caught in like a figure it out loop? And if we can notice that and kind of like pause and pull ourselves out of it, it's a lot more comfortable. And
Yeah,
then
am I under pressure to figure it out? I mean, you already fleshed it out. You know, am I concerning myself with thinking that I think I have to think about all the questions? Am I totally mentally anxious because too many things are pouring through? Too
yeah,
many things, I can't answer them all, just, kill me already type thing.
yeah,
Yep.
and it's just like, oh wait, is that even mine to answer? And if it's
Why
not,
am I thinking about this? Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if it's not mine, then I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
So then finally, for the root center, we have, am I in a hurry to get things done so I can be free of the pressure? Because
Yep.
the root center, it's like this like adrenalized, it's like this like gas in your engine, like go do this thing. And then it's just like, oh, if I finish it, then I could chill out, then I can rest. If I just do this thing, then I could rest. But it's like a never ending to-do list of like another thing, another thing, another thing. And so if we can like pause and pull out of that, if you can just chill before adding another thing to the to-do list.
Absolutely. And when we talk about the not self pressure, we're talking about this thing that really isn't us. And it becomes profound when you get your chart read and we do this analysis over time. You'll see that's not yours. The head center has a thing it needs to do. It needs to translate our existence. It's under pressure to pressure the translation of our existence. I mean, like from everything. Why am I here? Um, and that's a big deal. And the root center here is creating the pressure that finds the balance between fear and trust. Oh, no, we're good. I trust it. Oh, I'm not good. I fear it. and it's dumb, meaning it's not an awareness center. It's simply a fuel. The gasoline does not know why it explodes. You know, you can't ask it. It won't write a paper for you. The awareness centers will. And so it's under pressure to, again, find that balance between, fear and trust, basically. And other things about this root center is I've always noticed, even in myself, we become the multitaskers, which isn't really multitasking, but it sort of is, right? I mean, so I always make the joke, this is the open root center is the person who's answering a text while they're with voice while they're stirring their coffee and closing the refrigerator door with their left foot so that they can get out the door about 18 seconds faster, maybe. And then half the time they spill that coffee and they're out the door 2 minutes late. Same thing with going fast down the road. I watch open root centers go too fast, too fast, too fast. And then after a while that burns out and then they won't go fast enough. Yep.
Yeah, really good to know of like that if you have that open in your chart, it's like that pressure is not for you. Like if that's
It's
white, if that's not colored in on your chart, that's not your pressure, both to do stuff or to speak.
it's not yours, and that's hard to grasp with, and all these pressures are pointing at these awareness centers. We are
Hmm.
aware creatures, and the solar plex is the newest awareness waking up, so that's what we're looking at right now. These are the three awareness centers. If you notice, the pressure centers are pointing right at them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So now for those awareness centers, it's the spleen, it's the ajna, and the emotional solar plexus, right? So the spleen, if when you're looking at it, it's that brown triangle on the left side of the chart. The ajna is the one up by the head, and then the green one is the emotional solar plexus, and they help us become conscious of ourselves in different ways. The spleen, the splenic center focuses on body awareness and for survival. It's like our oldest awareness center. It's that like in the moment existential, like survive kind of awareness. And
It's
then
our quietest. It's the quietest
oh
one
yeah,
as well. It speaks softly.
yeah, and it only says it once. It'll just be like cross the street, and if you don't do it, then it's like well, we'll see what happens if you don't.
Right.
And then the second one is the ajna center, which focuses on mental awareness for thinking. And then the final one is the solar plexus center, which focuses on emotional awareness for relationships.
That awareness for thinking, by the way, is this it's essentially a desire for certainty, a certain amount of certainty, and that's what's going on there. And what was the last one? The solar plex.
The solar plexus, yeah, the emotional awareness of the solar plexus and being able to like ride out that wave, which ultimately the emotional solar plexus is the most powerful of the motors. When it's
Yep.
in alignment, when it waits out that up and down of its wave, it's actually the most powerful to make things happen. So you need to like ride out those ups and downs.
Well, the most powerful of the awareness is sacral's the most powerful motor because of its sustaining power. But these guys can compete. Don't get me wrong. The solar
Oh,
plex
absolutely.
can overpower everything. There's no question. The keynotes of these centers that need to get sort of risen. I'm not sure if it's there, but this spleen is awareness in the now. So it's got a frequency. I'm going to label the frequencies. The frequency is moment to moment. That's it. So it's always new, new now. It's like a metronome, new now, new now, new now. The frequency of the ajna is memory over all of time. So if it happened in third grade and you're still upset about it, that's the ajna holding on to over all of time. And now here comes the spleen, the solar plex, and it's like let's settle both of these things. It's a process of becoming clear in a wave over time. And it's really becoming clear over time, but it's in a wave. So if you're emotional, you have to go up and down through an emotional wave. And it's going to be terribly uncomfortable if you don't know what that is. But those are the frequencies awareness in a wave, up and down over time, where you become clear and finally you can know. And then you can never really know with the ajna. It's just a toy box. It's not an authority. And then the spleen is just, hey, you're safe, not safe, safe, not safe. Process of spontaneous awareness in the now.
That's great. I always love
Yeah,
listening to your commentary. I'm like,
I feel like a
ooh,
textbook, man. I love this. You always pull it out of me. Both of you guys.
yay,
It's the best. I
perfect.
love you.
I
Yeah.
love
No, I
you.
love you more. Um,
Oh, so before we get lost in the love fest,
let's
so for the not
compete, Moni. Let's compete over that. Yeah.
absolutely. So for the not self questions, right? So if you have these centers undefined, if they're white, not colored in on your chart, then pay attention to these questions. So for the spleen, right, that body, that intuitive awareness, that in the moment safety. So the open spleen, you can ask yourself, am I holding on to things that aren't good for me? Am I clinging? Am I afraid that, oh, if I don't have this, then I won't be able to survive and make it? And you end up clinging to something that's not actually good for you.
Yep. And there's a couple other things. The open spleen sometimes tries to be spontaneous when it's not. The
Oh,
spleen
yeah.
is purely spontaneous, and sometimes when it's open, you'll make spontaneous decisions in an attempt to hold on to things that aren't good for you, or just to
Mm,
hold on to things and things that
people.
aren't. Yeah, so I mean, you're in an abusive relationship and you can't let that person go. They have a defined spleen, you don't. You'll find that
Mhm.
a lot. Things of
Oh,
that
yeah.
nature.
Oh, yeah, it clings in. Secondary for the ajna, if you have that open, undefined, white, not colored in on your chart, the question you can pay attention to is, am I trying to convince everyone else that I am certain? Am I trying to prove that I know this when I probably don't, but I feel like I need to?
Mm, yeah, certainty, concerning yourself with certainty, being pissed at yourself when you can't be certain. If you put the head center together with it, you're under pressure to figure out the certainty that's not yours. And now it's so important you rely on your strategy and authority so that you can have the right timing. It doesn't mean you can't be certain. What it means is if you try and be certain, you can rest assured you're going to run into the not self of that, which is a liar, by the way.
Mhm.
It's a big fat vocal liar,
Mhm.
when it's acting out its not self, and little lies, by the way, but they add up.
Mhm. Yeah, it just tangles it into like a knot, and all of a sudden you're this
Yeah, no,
matted
I'm not.
mess.
Oh, yeah, I'm okay. No, I can be there. No, that I knew that. How about this? I knew that.
Oh gosh.
Liar. You didn't.
Ah, I don't know
And
shit.
and now you're so afraid you might get called out. You're not paying attention. You're into your not self. You're no
Mm,
longer present because the mind pulls you out of the presence quickly. Spleen guarantees presence unless you ignore it. Solar plex guarantees plenty of presence because you're in a freaking wave that hurts if you don't know what it is. Mind is just confusion, and it holds, and the ajna that holds on to this over all of time. So all this week you said, no, 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 I totally knew what that was, when you know you're going to meet up with that person on Friday and you didn't know what that was.
mhm,
And so you might find yourself spending hours studying a YouTube video to figure out what that thing was so you don't look like a fool and then it never got asked. Stuff. You're not you. When you're trying to be certain about things, it's who you're not. What you do is you recognize your certainty after the fact, after your authority and your strategy kick in. It kicks in, says, no, no, dude, we don't know. We don't know. If you have it open, I don't know becomes your friend. Whereas before, I don't know was one of the harder things to say. Not sure, can't tell. You're supposed to know that. The job title says I'm supposed to know it, and I still don't know. I'm not sure.
yeah. Damn, it's like you're personally deconditioning me.
Oh, yay. Thank you, Moni.
Thank you. You're the one who's doing all the good stuff. So finally, for the last awareness center, the emotional awareness, your solar plexus, if that's open, undefined, white in your chart, then the question you can ask yourself is, am I avoiding confrontation and truth? Because we
Yep.
can be so afraid of the emotional people around us of like, oh no, if they're in a bad mood, it's going to feel really bad, and trying to keep everyone happy.
Absolutely. And it's, since all of these centers are in all of us, whether they're defined or not, it's all in the world. So trust me, your spleen is trying to be afraid, whether it's defined or not. Your mind is holding on to all of those things that you experienced your whole life every time the emotional wave went into you and was uncomfortable and you had to avoid it. This thing is so powerful, it goes into you from the other who is defined. And suddenly it doesn't feel good and you just want to get out. You're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. And then you amplify it. That's one way you can know for sure with the solar plex. You'll start amplifying. If a person is making a conflict and you can't get out, you become more aggressive than they were, um, or can be. Anyways, it's a common tendency. And
Yeah.
and so, am I avoiding confrontation and truth? And yeah, you are. I was. Yep.
Cool. So next we're going to go through the motor centers, right? So we have the root, the sacral, the emotional solar plexus, and the heart. So if you're looking on the chart we have here, on the bottom, that orange square is the root center. The gray one up, is the sacral. The green triangle, which we also just talked about, is the solar plexus, your emotional center. And then the yellow, funny little triangle is the will center, your heart, your motor. So the root, solar plexus, sacral, and heart centers are all motor centers. They give us the energy to live our lives and to make things happen. The roots center keeps us moving forward. It's like a new adrenalized, like, hey, do this thing. Okay, now do this thing. It's like a go energy. The solar plexus drives our desires for experiences and relationships, right? And that one's we're going to be waiting out that wave up and down and up and down. And then when you're ready, it's like go. Uh, the,
Yep.
sac- the sacral center provides the energy for creativity and reproduction. If you have that defined, that's that that diaphragm that's going to say, is this good for me? Do I got the energy or do I not? And then finally, we have the heart center, which powers our will to survive and thrive. The heart center, I see it's like the nitro boost. It's the heart that's resting, and then it's going to go do something. It's pumping and it's resting. It's pumping and it's resting. And you can like kind of nitro boost, and then you got to wait for that nitro boost to fill back up before you can use it again.
So can we move backwards and start with the ego will center, the heart
I
center?
think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because we don't need to touch as much on the two that we just spoke about, but
Yeah.
it's this is the one center that acts like a throat center because in the tribe all roads lead to the will, to the
Hmm.
heart. But every other system, they all lead to the throat. So everything dead ends into the will center, into this heart center, and it's the ability to keep a tribal bargain, to keep the tribe going. It's the sensitivity to the needs to support things and to do stuff. And as Rob would always put it, to build the temples. Because it's a lot of work, dude. A lot of stone. People die. You need slaves. It's no good. I mean, it's hard. And in the old days, the ego willpower held the whip that built these things. In our modern day life, it's the ego willpower to mend the fence, to go do the artwork, to bring a village together, to feed the people, and to be tribal and up close where you can smell it and taste it. It's personal. And
Hmm.
it's loyalty, and it's fierce loyalty, and it's hunting, and it's killing when needed. All the ego tribal centers are the centers that kill the thing when you need to eat. Have you ever killed something, Moni? I mean, basically, no.
No,
For me,
no thanks.
right? Basically, when was the last time you killed something and ate it? Never, probably. Me neither. And
No, I've had other people like kill animals and I
I've
ate them,
seen it, yeah, and I've seen it in the pig and the
but
this and that. We've been
never
there,
up
but I mean,
close.
right. So we haven't. It's you got to admit, it's a big deal to lay your hand on a beast and extinguish it of its life. I mean, that's a bargain you're making with that animal. I'm going to kill you and you're going to feed me.
And
In
the
the
blood of the
meantime,
tribe, the blood of the heart.
yes, and in the meantime, the butcher's going to do that in 1949. That's the channel that synthesizes that, and at the same time, that animal basically fulfilled the bargain because right before it was killed, the tribe was like, "Hey, we herded you, we kept you safe, you could have your babies, the wolves couldn't get at you. Every once in a while, we're going to take one of you guys and eat you." That's sort of this mystical bargain, and it's the will center that can basically answer the questions as to why we see so many animals on cave walls and why they're so mystified in the sky and our constellations. We have a relationship with these animals because we've been taking their lives for our sustenance. That's pretty personal, and that's the work of the tribe. And the tribe is fathered or mothered, parented by the ego. The ego is the will, and it's a powerful motor. It does the thing. Don't compete with an ego, dude. They do the thing. If you're a non-ego and they're an ego and you're both just about as good and you're going head to head in competition, the ego is going to do whatever it takes to win in that moment. And that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, so for our not self questions, right? So for the sacral center, the gray square, if you have that open, undefined, white, it's not colored in on your chart, the question you can ask yourself is, do I know when enough is enough?
Mm,
Because we'll just
mm.
keep going. We'll just keep going. We'll be just flying high on someone else's buzzy sacral energy and just overwork ourselves and like flail out until it's like overdone. So if you start feeling yourself buzzing, my projectors, my manifestors, my reflectors, if you feel yourself buzzing, go lay down. Go just be horizontal. You don't gotta sleep. Just go be horizontal and rest.
Another good one, especially if you have right-facing arrows on your body graph, go gray out. Stare at something that you're not really staring at after a little while. Just for even 10 minutes. Listen to a song the song you like, so you can go away is really the thing. Go away. Yeah, mentally, go rest, like you said, if you can. Literally, go lay down horizontally or recline, stuff like that.
That was really good.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then
Yep.
finally, for our will center, our heart center, that little yellow triangle, if you have that white, undefined, not colored in on your chart, you can ask yourself, do I think I have something to prove? Or am I trying to prove myself? Am I trying to show that I can do it? I can keep up with other people, that I'm worthy? And if you're trying to prove yourself, stop. You don't have to do that. It's not you.
Yeah. Right. I have an open ego and I've got nothing to prove. And that's the thing you have to tell yourself. When you first hear yourself telling yourself this, you're going to think it's a cliche. That's the not self monkey mind trying to define truth for you, and it cannot. You'll see quickly you're not here to prove anything. You know who is? The ego people. Let them prove it. It's great. We become the observers of that proof. And you can know you're really butting up against it if you've got this gnawing thing inside of you that doesn't feel worthy, not sure if it's good enough, doesn't want to answer the phone because it might not have the right answer, doesn't want to do certain things, or the worst of all is, hey, how come that person's doing the thing so much better than me? If you find yourself
Mm,
asking that question, how come they're famous? How come they're this? How come that, I did the same thing. How come I'm not as good? You're not as good. It's just the timing wasn't right for whatever. Not everyone gets to be wealthy and famous, but ego people will tend to make more money because they have the ego will to demand it, generally speaking. So,
yeah.
yep.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Is
And
the what?
is the thief of joy.
Oh, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in
It'll
any regard on any of these centers, like that's the not self. There you go. Your comparison, is your not self. Your not self is the thief of joy because it's like it's not you, it's not your trip, and it's like you have no idea what somebody else's life is. You like
leave it on.
you
Oh,
know.
go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just gonna say it's like you can see the guy who's just like driving around in a convertible with like the sexy girl and all that, and you can like think like, oh, that guy's got it. And it's like you have no idea like what is going on in his life and like how miserable he might be underneath like a facade. And it's just like you don't want other people's problems. Like
A couple of those things that are incumbent in what you were just pointing out is that guy driving around in that convertible 65% of the planet has this will center open. And because of that, that guy, chances are, is open ego, chances are. And all that stuff is there to fill and supplement the openness of his will center to try and prove something he didn't need to prove.
mhm.
It's really gross. It makes us do really, really yucky things. Absolutely. Can I do something cool with this to show the diagnostic properties of these charts?
I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Do you want to, or do you want to give it a try? Or do you want me to do it? This is what we do. So we stack up various aspects of your chart when we're reading for you, when we're letting you know the things, so that you can finally have the fruitful life you've always wanted, and come to know this knowledge in yourself, grow. But what we do is we take these various aspects. Like here's 4 aspects right now in this chart. These 4 centers. These are all keynoted, meaning we can say something about each one of them separately. When you stack them up, they become an incredibly clinically wise statement that is going to get you off your medication. It's going to put your heart rhythm back right. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to remove the psoriasis or the eczema on your skin. Not kidding. It's going to stop your hair from falling out. Not kidding. Plenty of other things, depressions. Because we diagnosed this instead of some other draconian means that wasn't right. So do you feel like trying to if these 4 centers are open in a body graph, keynote the misery that person is unjustly putting themselves through? Do you want me to do it, or
Yeah,
would you like to?
I can try it. I can try it. So, under pressure to prove yourself, to avoid conflict, and not knowing when enough is enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it sounded like a simple thing she just did, but it's not. It's profound. You're looking and reading this person, a person I'm reading for you, and suddenly you'll be saying stuff, and I'll be like, that's because you're under pressure. You forgot and lost track of when enough was enough. All your energy that you don't have to sustain is trying to sustain because you need to prove you are worthy. And the people you're trying to prove it to, you're going to have a conflict with if you don't. And so now you're going to run away and hide or lie and burn yourself out. It's awful. Thank you, Moni. Was that
Thank
good for
you.
you, honey?
That was great.
Woohoo.
All right, finally, our last center, the identity center. So that's that little diamond right in the center of the
Mm-hmm.
body graph, right? So
The jewel.
yeah, the G center is also known as the identity center. It's like a magnetic compass. It's a magnetic monopole, so it's like a one-way facing magnet. So it's just like pulling us onto like our trajectory, like where we're supposed to be going and what's supposed to be coming towards us. It's the center of the body graph, and it shapes our sense of self and our direction in life. It's our the center for love and direction, and how you love and how you move through the world. It's the center that connects our unique energy to the broader flow of life, and it's where we feel connected to the universe and our purpose. And finally, the G center pulls life towards us, guiding us along our journey.
That all sounds, and it's all incredibly true. And if we just left it at that, you would wonder, why did they print so much on a fortune cookie? If we only left it at that, this is such clinical truth sitting inside this center, the way it hooks us onto our geometry, beyond our capacity to understand that. All I can tell you is if we start reading the gates in your G center and in your body graph and in your nodes, we're going to find out 10 years later why you are where you are, from whence you came. And then it won't sound so much like a fortune cookie anymore. Holy cow. I'm genetically predisposed to do what the G center does. This identity that it proposes for us to be, that seems like a nebulous word. Oh, this is the home of your identity. If we leave it at that, it's like, oh, that's cute. What does that mean? Right? So, but it's very specific, because of all the centers, only one center houses two, completely two incarnation crosses. And that's this center. All of the vessel of love and all of the Sphinx are in this center only. And what's it tell us? The direction of humanity is towards communion, empowered by love. I mean, the universal love of all things, the love of humanity, the love of ourself, the love of our bodies in this world, walking around, experiencing things. If you don't think you love your body, have sex with your partner, you'll find out you love your body. Okay. And you'll think that's not enough. It is, it's there. My point being is, it's a proof positive that, genetically speaking, love is a force, just like Einstein said. Before he died, he was like, I should have published this long ago. He was probably afraid of the conflict. You know what I mean? And so forth. I should have done this long ago. I've determined that love is a force in the universe, he said. He couldn't explain all of it,
Mm-hmm.
but he was able to put it into an equation, L equals mc squared, and he did it past the speed of light, and he was serious. And the love that is in this, the vessel of love, these four gates that are the vessel, empower the direction. And gate 2 of this direction is the home of the magnetic monopole. This monopole is a physical phenomenon. The scientists have been looking for it for several decades now, because they theorize for it, because they're smart. Of course they theorize for it. Something else is acting on the universe, and when they can't tell what it is, there's one in each of us.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they get their microscopes right, or however that's going to work, and their measurements right, they're going to find there's a monopole in every living man and woman and
Mm-hmm.
child. And it's a monopole. It only attracts. You could look at it like a positively charged magnet. That's
Mm-hmm.
only positive, and it doesn't have its other side, which is impossible right now. Um, but this is possible, more possible. It's in us. And because it attracts us into a direction. And then the gates across the top provide that direction. 7 and 1 and 13. They guarantee a direction that pays attention to right now, pushes our creativity in a marshaling direction that held on to the past to tell the stories and drive communion. Humans are supposed to get along. Newsflash. It's one way. It's not the other way, and we're not supposed to be killing each other no more. It's just we're not,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not, and only our government's acting out the old way, trying to deny the existence of this thing for whatever messed up reason. I don't know, but there you
Truth,
have it.
truth
So
always wins.
yeah, so
Like
there's
in
our
the end.
there's
Oh,
our identity. It's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. And the final thing was the not self question for the identity center. If that's undefined and open in your chart, it's am I looking for love and direction? So
Oh
when someone
yeah.
Yeah, when someone has that defined in their chart, when it's colored in, it's kind of like being on like a streetcar, like one of those trolleys, and like we're going a specific way. When you have that open or undefined, you get to like jump onto different people's streetcars.
Mm.
So when somebody has that like undefined and open, they can feel like, oh no, like I don't have a specific way of loving and moving through the world. Like it's not defined. I love and I move in these different ways, but knowing that you're inherently lovable and valuable, and you get to have like the buffet, the poo-poo platter of like all the different ways of loving and moving through the world. So
And
enjoy it.
And will I find love and direction? Where is my love and direction? Because this is identity, and identity is unique and incredibly personal to the being, one at a time. So you can feel terribly lost in moments that say, I don't know where my love and direction is. I'm married, but I can't tell if I love my partner. Stuff like that. I don't know if I love me. I can't tell. Is my love moving in the right direction? And are you concerning yourself with love and direction? If you are, that's who you're not. As soon as you stop, this is a thing. There's all this Zen knowledge out there, right? There's all this amazing knowledge out there that points out when you don't try, you get. When you observe, you see. When, right? All of these things. When you allow, in it comes, right? These are, and they're all passive principles. They're all these passive allowing, reducing the expectations down to near minimum, and then they become an active principle after they've been passive if you allow it, and then you actively will move in that right direction and find that love and direction that you were hoping for. So
Oh, that's so lovely.
it is, isn't it? I didn't know I would say all that. Thank you, Moni.
Thank you.
Thank you, Moana. I
Thank
wouldn't
you,
say any of
Lana.
this stuff if it wasn't for Moana. Moana makes all this stuff happen because you're
Aw.
amazing, Moana.
Yeah,
I
We're
can't say
all
that enough.
amazing, but I'm just thankful that I get to call you two co-hosts. Like that's pretty wild.
same,
That's
same,
amazing.
same.
Love Fest. All right. So, friends, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. Can you believe that? That was not the meat and potatoes.
It
That
was
was
just
your
a hearty
What?
appetizer.
that was
What?
your
What?
appetizer. So now
I
we're
need to
getting
light
into
a
the meat and
cigarette. I'll
potatoes.
be right back. Can you do this without me for about 10 seconds?
Yeah, yeah, you
I need
go
to go grab
ahead.
me
So,
some. That's
Moni,
all.
you can relax, hang out in the chat, do whatevs, and I guess I'm gonna take Danny off until he comes back. But yes, let's check it out. The meat and potatoes. So we're going to start off our journey with the head center. So, like it was also already mentioned, it's a pressure center. And the themes is you're looking to know stuff. It's like, okay, the why, the asking of questions, you're trying to figure things out. So the figure things out is coming from that particular center. And every center actually has a physical area in the body. So with the head center, you are actually looking specifically at your pineal gland. So if you have an undefined head center, right, it's going to look like the picture there. It is not colored in. So every center has a high expression and a low expression. So we're going to go through the shadows or the low expressions of the undefined head center first. So what that can look like is you're overthinking and you're ruminating. I have an undefined head, so I am guilty as charged of this, right? So, you're thinking thoughts that aren't really important. You're worrying about things a lot. That's some undefined head center shadows. If you're doubting, like doubting yourself, you're like stuck in like analysis paralysis. That's another shadow. If you're scared that people are going to steal your ideas, you're like, oh, I can be the only one to like execute this, and if I tell anybody, oh, no, 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 like I just have to keep it to myself because somebody might take it. That's also a shadow. Or even pressure to perform, right? It's like I have to have all the answers. I need to have it all figured out. Having that sort of mentality is a shadow of the undefined head. Information overload. So
Yeah.
you might look at I mean, I'm guilty of this. I will look at a thing and be like, I mean, human design is a great example. When I first saw my body graph, I was like, no, that's
Nope.
too
Not
many
doing it.
numbers, too many
Not doing it.
shapes. What are those symbols even? No. Just walked away. I'm like, I can't
I
do
quit.
this.
I quit. I
I
quit.
quit. So
Yep.
that was undefined head shadows going on. I'm like, that's too much. I can't. What is this? Even people pleasing, right? When you're trying to solve other people's problems, it's like, no, no, no. Like I have to figure this out for them. They can't do it for themselves. Like let me try, or looking for answers from other places. So I know I was guilty of this, where I'm like, okay, this coach will have the answer. This program will have the answer. This course will have the answer. The answer has to be somewhere. And you're just like hopping from book to course to coach, undefined head center stuff.
Yeah.
Danny, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so and especially when you combine it with the center right below, so this is open head center, lots of bookcases, lots of books, lots of courses, like you had said. And think about what this pressure does. So it's a genetic proclivity to guarantee we inspire, and people, don't get carried away with this inspiration. It's coming from out there. Some does. We have the nodes of the moon. We have different planets driving in forces on us. So there is some inspiration that is truly divine, and but most of it actually comes from within us, because what the head center does is it doesn't go straight to the neocortex. It's the pineal gland. It's trying to it's a pressure it's not trying to translate it. It's the pressure to translate existence. Look at it like the gasoline in the car. The gasoline itself is not, it wants to blow up inside the engine, but it can't really try. It's got to be delivered, and it doesn't know it wants to blow up. It's simply the pressure to explode and ignite inside the engine. And so it's always there. It never stops. It's got three activations. So it's the potential for the least activated center in the body graph, 70%, 71, 2, 3, something like that, to have no defined head center. And it's always trying to answer all these questions that it's to be under pressure of. What it's there for, if you have it open, is to be under the pressure of, am I thinking about things that don't matter to my right now?
Hmm.
And I
And
mean,
for
and what
those who don't know, sorry to interrupt,
yeah, no,
activations, right? That could be fancy terminology for some.
thank you.
See
Thank you,
the little
Mona.
numbers, the little itty bitty numbers. If it's colored in, that means you have an activation. So you might have an activation or a gate, even
Okay,
if
yep,
your shape is white or
white.
uncolored. So that's
Absolutely.
what Danny meant by that.
Yeah, we call that a hanging gate, or hanging activation and gate are synonyms. And so hanging gate, you have a gate 61 or 64, but that's it.
Hmm.
Center is still open. So all of this pressure raining in, with or without activations, it's always there. And the trick is the experiment for yourself. And you really got to choose to experiment with it, so you can find yourself in wonder and awe of what you just saw. Is, am I concerning my things self with things that don't matter to my right now?
Hmm.
And get granular. Right now, I am putting gasoline in the car.
You're just
To get
beautifully segued us into the high expression. So,
Oh,
we are in a binary with human
thank you.
design. There's a
Good.
low
Yeah,
and a high. So, the high expression of an undefined is knowing that what you know is enough and not constantly reaching for the next thing. It's like, you know what? I know enough. Like, what I know is good enough, and not, making yourself
how about
feel.
this one? How about this for a high expression?
Hmm.
I can't tell if I know what I know is enough. I think
Hmm.
there's still holes, but I'm okay. It's not my
Yes.
pressure.
Hmm.
I So, and then someone comes along, "Well, don't you know?" It's like, "No, not yet."
Hmm.
There's a lot of pressure coming in, including from you, but not yet,
Right.
you know?
So you're also content with the ideas, right? So you're not constantly looking for more. You're okay with the ones that you are getting, if that makes sense. Like,
Yes.
we're trying to look at the positive part of it. It's like, what, the idea, like, instead the opposite. It's like, oh, what I'm thinking of isn't good enough. The opposite here would be like, what, everything that's coming to me is meant for me, and
Right.
being content with it, having a boundary around themselves to not solve everyone's problems. So when
God,
someone comes
right,
to you, you're like, you know what? That's not my problem. I can hold space for you, but I'm not going to sit here and try to fix it.
right. If something comes out, that was good timing. I'll say it. Other than that, I don't know. You
Mhm.
know, but I'm listening, so keep talking. Is yeah, there's kind ways to do this that put us in nine-centered communion with the other that are not awful and so forth.
Mhm.
Yep.
And also focusing on thoughts that are actually helpful to you or matter instead of, thinking things that are not helpful to you or to anyone around you. So, you're content with the things. You're much more like laser focused on what thoughts you entertain, because your head's always going to keep thinking the things, but you are being much more careful about which ones are worth your energy. And
Again,
mhm,
yeah, to your right now. Can I
mhm.
demonstrate a few right
Yeah,
now?
of
You're
course.
pumping. I started with your pumping gas. That's all you're doing right now.
Mhm.
Okay. 2 seconds later, you're calculating the cost. Oh, calculate the cost. Stop thinking about that. You don't have it. Just calculate it. 2 seconds later, after that, a new now, and oh, I do have it. So I will go to this amount, or I'm not sure. I better stop here. None of those are meant to be held on to.
One
This
thought
is
at a time.
one at a time at my right now. And
Mhm.
and I only covered 4 seconds or 10 seconds of
Yeah, right.
life in that moment. You know? Yes.
You
So
just
so if
demonstrated what mindfulness is all about, right?
yes, and
Mindfulness is just right now.
get granular as you experiment with this way. To experiment is to look at yourself with your open head center and exactly how Moana and I are describing this. And the meditator that lets it flow through. The beauty of this is letting it flow through. And the high exaltation of this is where we're supposed to be. Humanity is healthy, truly, and able to do all the right things and have absolute abundance when this center no longer tortures 70% of us. Think of the next
Mhm.
problem on the planetary problem that shows up on the news. Everyone's got to deal with it now, whatever that is. 70% of the planet will be thinking about things that don't matter. How can we possibly drive a good direction?
So
When you,
what
when,
Danny's talking about, for those who are like, what is he talking about?
thank you. Yeah.
I should have put this on the slides, but somehow I didn't make it. He's talking about the percentages. So approximately 70% of the world population has undefined heads. So most of us who again are not aware of our human design are like hanging out in like the low expression of this center. Unless you have that
True.
awareness and be like, wait.
No, it's true. And when Moana says hanging out in the low expression, no, your true nine-centered self doesn't want that.
Hmm.
The 5-year-old and the kid inside of you who is wise does not want that, but it keeps showing back up because the
Hmm.
world has keeps putting it in there, and it's up to us to break it. As we
Hmm.
wake up to our nature and break each of these aspects, it
Hmm.
shatters a spot in the matrix that slows down the ability to even for the planet to be that way. This is a
Hmm.
planetary process and an individual process. It's amazing.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
One person at a time, right? So, an undefined head when they're in their high expression, right? They are able to think deeply and analyze things and absorb information without getting overwhelmed. They're not like They're like, "Oh, I can actually think about this methodically and like step by step and all the things, and it's beautiful." And
No,
lastly, they're able I can attest to this, they draw inspiration from all sorts of places, and then they make something unique, right? So I like to think of it kind of like an antenna. Right? I'm just like, I'm picking up signals from like other people's things and then I'm like,
yep,
oh, at
yep.
least that's how I like to think about it.
And it is, and those things are all over the world. If you look at all of these centers, they all have a frequency. And you look at there's 8 billion of us on the planet. The planet is covered with this frequency. Even if you're out in the wilderness, it's there. A lot less if you're out in the wilderness. But if you're around people ever, it's there. It's constantly being shipped in. No shortage of this
Mhm.
stuff is the point. Yep.
So, how we can heal our undefined head shadows, right, is being open to inspiration, right? I know Danny throws around the whole idea of like, I'm open. That's where that's coming from, right? When you're open to like letting answers just come to you without searching and hunting for the answer, it'll just like float into your head. Because think of your head like a little antenna. It'll
Yeah.
just it'll come in. It'll come in when it comes in. And trust that the solutions are actually there, and it just hasn't come into your focus yet. It's always been there. You don't have to go again searching Um,
Truly is. Yes. Your strategy and authority are your guide. This is your savior and your guarantee of being yourself. Um, yeah, antenna. I love that. Thank you, Moana.
right? It just came into my head. And things will effortlessly come to you. Whatever you are looking for, you don't have to actively search out the right answer or the right solution, right? What's meant for you will show up. And your intuition, like Danny just said, your strategy and authority is always guiding you, and the flow of ideas and insights are naturally going to come your way if you just surrender to your strategy and authority.
It's so true, and I'm jealous. I
Of
just
what?
realized the last one you read off. I love that we're doing this. We keep coming up with the new juice for everyone, Moana. This is beautiful.
We're just like,
No one does it like us, but I'm jealous. I have defined head and ajna. And you were
oh,
just talking about a fanciful free life of no, let it flow through. The right ones will be right. And as you were saying, I was realizing the right person to ask about what matters is an emotional person designed to make an impact with an open head and ajna center after they become clear, because the beauty of the open centers are there where wisdom is, the wisdom of what
mm-hmm,
might be worth doing that for, what made
mm-hmm.
sense to even do that, what's good to even think about today.
Well,
So
we're going. I was gonna say, Danny, we're gonna go to your side of the pond into the defined head center.
okay. Oh,
We're
is that where
there.
we are now?
Oh yes. Oh, we're at your side of the
That's so
pond.
funny.
So again, highs and lows. So for the defined head, a block or a low expression can also be idea theft, right? It's like, oh my God, someone's gonna steal the thing I thought about.
Totally.
So they try really hard to either protect it or like make sure they're the only ones to like execute it. Also, there's like a pressure to maintain a certain, what's the word I'm looking for, lifestyle or like learning. It's like, no, I need to do it this way.
Like a
This is like
pace
the
and a
only way.
level, like a
Hmm.
pace and a level of the learning and a quality of it. Sure.
Or there's negativity, right? That can come in. A lot of self doubt and what was it? Confusion. And I have some friends that can go into like negative doom spiraling that are defined heads because
Mm.
they're just like, oh, how do I know this is gonna work? How do I know if what I'm doing is working? And they can feel really, really down in the dumps about
Negative
them.
talk and like negative talk and negative self-talk that doesn't also feel uplifting. You can mention negative things and be uplifting.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And then overthinking cycles. So this is something with defined head centers, right? They can notice patterns, but they can get caught in the weeds of the patterns, and it could lead to them feeling really anxious and like confused. It's like, oh, I keep seeing this thing happening, and like, meh. And then just feeling helpless because they notice the thing and they might not know how to like do
Can we
something about
tell
that pattern.
can we tell people real quick why is it defined? Is that in here?
Of course, no,
So,
no. This is what you're here for, to fill in the
so the
gaps.
I mean the reason it would even be defined is because there would be a full channel. The channels are life forces. Just wherever there's a channel, it's a true life force, always on, count on it. Um, so one of these three channels would be defined, colored in. That means you'd have a defined head and ajna at very least. So
Another thing that could be is that you're dominating communication, right? It's like you're forcefully trying to put your viewpoints into the conversation when it might have not been invited, and not listening to other people's opinions or ideas. It's like, nope, nope, I am the only one. What I'm saying is right. Or you are wrong. Nope, nope, nope. Yeah, that. That's some undefined. I mean,
I'd
defined
like to go
block.
on record as sometimes that's a high expression depending on what you're listening to.
Well, yeah, and poor timing, right?
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
poor timing
timing.
when you're sharing your ideas, right?
Right. Right.
And trying to answer a thing, you might try to like override. But
Mhm.
anything to add to that, Danny? I know this is not like the pretty stuff.
No, no, it's perfect. We need to. I love the dirt, man. In fact, always ask me the hard questions for my responses. In the now, you'll get some really interesting things, especially if you do it live. But the not self of this open head center, the pressure feels like it's supposed to be overbearing. It feels like I'm burdened with this rather than
Mhm.
gifted with it. You know what I mean? Look at it like it's already a concert pianist in its own little way, whatever, master this, master that. But you look at it like it's a dread because the life force is always on. That means when you're open head ajna, you end up having, you can let it go sometimes and forget that you need to be under pressure. When it's defined, you're never
Mhm.
not pressurizing your concept palette to conceptualize in the
Mhm.
ajna ever. It never should. Dan, you think too much. Apparently not. You know, do you ever shut? You can't. You know, I can't meditate, and you hear the speed in response when the timing is right. And what am I doing? I'm speed talking right now, and everything wants to pour out in this one moment because there's so much locked up that has been previously pressurized over the past 2 weeks. That's sitting there waiting to just pour out.
Mhm.
So that would be the experiment. Start to witness. And it really comes down to one thing. Does it feel not good? If it doesn't feel
Mhm.
good, then that's who you're not. That's your life
Mhm.
force working who you're not. And if your little 5-year-old in you says, "Oh no, this feels great,"
Yeah,
then
I have some
that,
5-year-olds in our high expression slide. And
yes,
they could be
yes.
more than 5, I don't know. But yeah, the high expression can be like, "You know what? My ideas are unique and they're not gonna be stolen."
And
You
they're not
have
going to stop. Don't ask me to stop.
yeah, and they're not gonna stop. They're gonna keep. You're an idea machine, right? Anytime I see a defined head, I'm like, "Ooh, you have an idea factory over
Make them talk
there."
at you, right? Talk at me,
Ooh,
but
I'm
only
like
for 5 minutes.
I'm just like, "Wow, that's amazing. Look at you." And you have the ability to inspire others, right? And through life choices, you are a positive influence, right? When you share your perspective with others, right? And you're constantly curious. You're like, you know what? I'd like to figure that out, and looking for inspiration. So see, it's a little bit different. If this was the undefined head, it could turn into like I'm searching, searching, searching. But if it's a defined head, it's a curiosity.
It's a
Does that?
curiosity, and it's real important now to just keynote those gates that are the head center. We had them on the last slide. I'll just say them out loud from left to right: 64, 61, and 63.
Yeah.
Confusion, the thinker trying to know, and then doubt. And
Hmm.
confusion is important. I've learned to love my confusion. I love it.
Hmm.
Dude, I'm confused. Something great must be working its way out. It's an assumption. Just make the assumption because you're great. Whoever you are that's watching this,
Yeah.
you're literally great. You're designed great. You're made perfect.
Right.
The rest
Yeah.
that in 61 is the desire to come up with a rationale. It's the pressure to know in a sense. It's the thinker that's pressuring you to be thinking about what the hell is this, and
Mhm.
is right now.
Mhm. Mhm. And
So
you generate so much inspiration not only for yourself but for others, right?
others, and
And
last one,
contemplate away. Contemplate away.
contemplate.
All the deeper questions like defined head peeps, that's what you're here for. Contemplate
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. And you'll find the right friends that say that's okay. And you'll learn the right timing and when to shut the hell up. Um,
Yeah.
and your friends will understand we're letting you find that right timing, Dan, and so forth.
Mhm.
So
So
the last gate was the 63, doubt, the last pressure out of the head
mm,
center. And doubt is a logical process. Everything that's logical begins with a doubt. They're healthy as hell. I forget how
mhm.
much I can swear on this. I would choose to drop an F bomb right there. They're wicked healthy. Doubt is good. And if you have that whole channel, it's formalizing. Let it
Mhm.
formulate.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean it's right, but it's
Mhm.
looking into the future. And that collectively across the whole planet, that channel would be under pressure to basically make sure we're okay. Because
Mhm.
it's always looking into the future. Make the trains run, make the bread get cooked, make whatever.
Mhm.
Make the
Mhm.
baby formula not run out.
Right. So like healing your defined head blocks, right? You don't have any pressure to share, right? You don't have to share your ideas. It's perfectly fine to put them to yourself. Right? You only when you feel called to that you need to share them at all, right? And you
So
are
true.
unique. Absolutely unique in how you execute it. So let's say someone does go copy your idea, guess what? They're not going to do it like you. They're not gonna do it like you. There's no one like you. So even if they go copy it, be confident in that that idea came to you because you are the person meant to execute it. And if somebody goes and steals it, they're not going to be able to do it the same.
The same anyways, and you'll find 1,000 things they just didn't do. And I love that first one, no pressure to share. I'm a living example from my younger self when I didn't know, as I was getting conditioned through the years. I didn't know when to stop. I was a force to be reckoned with. I ruined conversations left and right and didn't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know, and these people love me, they're my friends, I worked for them, I would do whatever, I was always trying to empower their now, and I loved them, and then if I start to it's just like they had to put up with it,
Mm.
and I knew that, that was the funny thing, I kept seeing, "Oh my god, I just made them have to put up with me," and I was like, "I guess I do that thing, what is that?" And I would watch it over and over again when I came to find out what it was. What a relief, I was like, even though it's a
Mhm.
pressure center, it's not my pressure to make them listen right now.
Exactly. Which moves us on to our awareness center, the ajna. So we had our head asking all the questions, and it goes down to the ajna that's looking for certainty and perspective, right? It's like, oh, is this the correct way or is this the correct way? Is this the correct way? Trying to pick a lane is what
Yep.
this center's doing.
Ba
So the
based on
physical,
memory,
mhm,
based on memory.
the physical association in the brain is your neocortex, your visual cortex, and your pituitary glands.
Yep, that's exactly right, and it's under it's catching the pressure. Worth noting, if you have a defined
Mhm.
head center, you have a defined ajna. There's only 3 channels that will define that head center, and they all go to the ajna. Worth pointing out.
Oh, see, now that makes sense because I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen a defined head who doesn't have a defined ajna.
Right. One more cool, wiki cool fact to help put more
They
perspective is
come in pairs. They come in pairs.
they come in pairs. That's why I always put them together. They
I never
come in
realized
pairs.
that. That's so sad
It's
that I only
yeah,
realized that now.
they're this little binary outside the body in a sense that's like above it all, outside the lower chakras. And
Ah.
one more thing, it means the ajna center is the only center in the body graph guaranteed to always be under pressure at all times, whether you're defined there or not. That's how the world is operating.
Mm.
You take the pressure, the second pressure center, the root, and maybe it's pressuring the ego. I mean, maybe it's pressuring the spleen, maybe the center one, maybe the solar plex. So whatever, it moves around, not this one. So it means these two
Ah.
are always under pressure in a
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
In a pair. Like, oh man, that's funny. So let's look at your undefined ajnas, right? So undefined ajna, your shadows or your low expressions is you can have perfection paralysis, right? You are like, it has to be perfect. I can't stop doing this thing unless I get it exactly perfectly right. And you can end up having with lots of decision fatigue, right? And you're like, I have to make all these choices all the time and I'm like, I'm so sick of it. Another is fear of failure. You're like, what if I make the wrong choice? And they go into a doom spiral of like worst case scenario
Of
spinning.
what it's going to look like, how they're going to feel, what are others going to think. I'm supposed to have known this, not wanting to admit my uncertainty.
Mhm,
Mm,
mhm. Right? Or action inertia, which is similar to like the failure and the perfection thing, right? It's like I just won't do anything because if I do anything, it could be the wrong thing. So you're
that's a good
just kind
one.
of frozen and you
That's
don't end up doing nothing. Inconsistent thinking, right? So if you let your everything just get jumbled up, your thought process isn't a thing that you could detangle. Um, and you have this weird pressure to appear confident. It's like, oh yeah, I know, even though you're inside like I am so confused. No idea. But I need to
right.
show everyone I know that I have my stuff together when in reality you don't.
There's a
Right.
huge profundity that needs to get applied right now, if I may.
Mhm.
It means that in that moment you're a liar. You've just lied to yourself and others, and it's
Mhm.
quite profound. You're a liar, and all these centers do that. Please
Mhm.
take that in. It's
Mhm.
important. It's a mechanic that we need to get over. Nobody means it. Everyone's going to forgive all the lyingness that we all do to ourselves and the other in this minute, micro little lie fashion that does it all the time. And this center is the king of it. Oh no, I got that. Oh yeah, I saw that. Oh yeah, I can get that done. Oh yeah, I think that thing's gonna work. No, I know how to make that work. Oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah, I can figure that out. No, I'll have the right idea. Oh, don't worry, I'll write it down.
Mhm. Mhm.
Each one micro, you're not bad because that was a lie, right? But it's a
Mhm.
lie
Mhm.
and it keeps adding up.
Mhm.
Stop it. Stop
Mhm.
it. It's one. Deepak Chopra was right in that 7 spiritual laws for success, or however that book was,
Mhm.
that he was right to recognize no lies. When I first heard that, I thought to
Mm.
myself, that's hard. How am I going to do? I mean, I'm a liar. If I say I'm going to tell no lies, I'm already lying, you know? But he came up with none, none. And I was like, who can meet that bar? That's the bar. That's
Mm.
the awakened state.
Mm.
To just be so careless about not caring that you don't lie anymore. And the
Mhm.
times you do, you see it and you laugh at it. Doesn't mean you'll never will. It just means it's now in the right perspective. Totally. Just
Which
totally.
you basically reminded me of something. So, the goal isn't for us to become like monks that we're always living in like the high frequency of, your defined or undefined centers. That's not the point. You are human.
Hell
You
no.
will waver. You will
Yeah, you're
waver
supposed to.
between, you know what I mean? You will waver between the low and the high. That's the human experience. But what we're trying to make you aware of is being aware of it. You're
It's
like,
seeing it.
oh,
What's the deal? What's the deal? Seeing it kills it.
yeah. So the
Uh,
minute you catch yourself, you're like, oh, yeah, that's my
I
not
saw that.
self popping up. That I'm not,
It doesn't
we're not
matter.
here to be like, you're doing it wrong. Like, that's not what we're
That's
telling
exactly
you.
not the point. Yeah, the
Yeah,
point is
that's not the
exactly
point.
what Moana says. We need to ultimately forgive ourselves. We're deconditioning ourselves from a deep, deep slumber, Rip Van Winkle style, full on Dorothy and Wizard of Oz out of itness.
Yeah,
And
like especially if you found human design in your adult life, like you're trying to undo like your entire adult life's programming. Like that's a lot. So
that was
please be
me.
gentle with yourself. Like,
Yeah.
that's our PSA for the night. Please be
Yeah.
gentle.
We don't care. That we don't care. If you're seeing it, then we think that's great. And now
Oh,
you're
this is
alive.
this is a beautiful thing. I'm sure Moni put this up. Low expression is a signpost showing that we're out of alignment, so we can course correct. See, beautiful. See,
And
Moni's
not
here.
lie this is beautiful, and then not lying to yourself saying, "Oh, but I'm not out of alignment." They are.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
You'll
So
see it.
the flip side of the undefined ajna, right? The high expression is you embrace uncertainty. You're like, you know what? I don't need to be sure. if it if this is a thing, it's a thing. If it's not, it's not. And just kind of being very nonchalant with that part. So it's kind of similar to the head where it's like you don't need to know. This is certainty. You don't need to be certain. And you are very present focused, like Danny kept saying, right? You quiet the mind, you are just going with one moment at a time, right? It's like what's happening right now. And this is like me talking to myself because I am always like, oh my God, what if that thing doesn't happen? So it's also a reminder for
And
me when I see these.
and
It's not just for you.
it's hanging on to what was pressurally memorized in the head center, which is also the deep gray area and the pineal gland. And it's all the memory over. That's why its frequency is over all of time. It's because its particular jet fuel that happens to always be on is strictly memory and inspiration to do something with that memory and figure out what the hell we are, translate our existence. That's what
Hmm.
translate existence is, its job. And
Hmm.
this is catching that pressure and saying, I got to keep thinking about it. I got to keep doing the thing. And if it's open, Moana is exactly right. We let it flow through. And the timing and your strategy and your authority are your tool to know it's good. I tried to jump. I noticed myself trying to jump. My body still wants to jump, but I recognized what it was. I didn't
Hmm.
speak. It
Hmm.
wasn't the right timing.
So then one of the nice things about the undefined ajna is you're able to hold many different perspectives and many different viewpoints, and
Wise, wisdom,
right, and
lots of
not
it.
get caught up in that, right? And same thing with your thoughts, right? You are much more selective about which information is allowed to penetrate you instead of like just getting overloaded, because again, if it's empty or undefined, right, you
Fine.
take it all on and you can just get in this like giant confusion. But if you're living in the high expression, you're able to be like, oh, this thing goes here, this thing, move it to the side. And you have amazing memory and you're super adaptable, right? So you are able to change your viewpoints depending on like what the situation is and like who you're around, right? And be a little bit of a chameleon in that way. And you're empathetic, right? You can be like, I can see where that person's coming from, and you can almost sense their thoughts, and it can like see if this is a reliable source of information or not. You can become discerning. And you can also look at which opinions are worth you listening to and taking on as potentially yours, or not. It's like, you know what, this opinion, it makes sense to me to also agree with, or you know what, that doesn't make sense. And again, moment to moment, you change it up. Anything to
Mo-
add?
Yeah. Moment to moment is the thing. So the strategy and authority becomes so important with this open center. Concerning yourself with a certainty you don't have becomes another signpost, just like Moni's saying about the other signpost. That's an important. Am I concerning myself with a certainty that I don't have? Have I spent 1 second of my energy, and then watch yourself start to make up excuses for that? And
Mhm,
it's not, it's who
mhm,
you're not. And those excuses
mhm,
become the little nuggets of the lies. And so put these two centers together and stack up those two keynotes, and you're under pressure trying to figure out all the questions and all the answers that you don't really care about, and trying to get certain about all that, and concerning yourself with a certainty you don't have and how that appears to the other under
mhm.
pressure.
Right. So
With mental
healing your
anxiety, by the way, mental
right.
anxiety,
Yes.
mental anxiety,
Mhm,
everything that anxiety and that depression can actually happen. Mental nervousness. These are the things to look for when they're there. That's who
mhm.
you're not. That's your
Yes,
signpost.
that's your
That the
signpost.
that the upsides of these centers are dying. They're little. You're the 5-year-old who is always right is trying to make that come out in you, and you'll see it in that moment. See it so you can
Mhm,
see that.
mhm. So, um, we talked about like trying to find certainty and like having all the answers, right? But when you are healing your shadows, you can just be like, you know what? My strategy and authority, or my intuition, whatever you want to call it, will guide me the right way. I don't need to have the entire roadmap right now laid out in front of me. It'll be revealed to me as time comes, and kind of surrender to that. And you focus on the big picture, right? So instead of like getting lost in the weeds of like all the little details, you can just, zoom out and be like, you know what? It might not be exactly why I pictured it, but I am moving forward, even if it doesn't feel like it. And let go of the perfectionism, right? Just trust that you don't need to have it all perfect, and you didn't need to have every detail go exactly the way you want. And by the way, I'm talking to myself. I'm
And
talking to myself the
yeah,
entire
you
time
are.
here.
No, it's beautiful. And it does it hurt? Does it even hurt to say that now,
No,
Moana?
I'm just
It,
like, I
can
can
you
call
remember
myself out. This is what the show's
well,
about, calling
live this
ourselves
moment
out.
out? Live this moment out for the people, Moana. Can you remember a time not that long ago when it would have been difficult to even reference that? Oh, I'm
Probably
talking about
before I started my experiment.
right. I mean, you can remember particular moments when it was like
I
difficult,
actually
probably.
did it. This is probably embarrassing. I shouldn't be admitting this out loud.
You should
But
be.
I this is a little tangent for everyone who's like, oh, I don't want to hear Moana go on tangents. Well, sorry, you're gonna get one.
You got
Um,
one.
I calculated my human design birthday or human design experiment day. It's literally only been, I was telling Moni this, like a year and 5 months. Exactly.
It's been that long.
It's been that short, is what I thought to myself. I'm like, whoa, I thought it was like 2.5 years. It's only been that long in that time. Like, I've met you, I've met Moni, and I started a goddamn show. Just like, what?
That's funny. We
Right?
needed to do it. We needed to do it. That's great.
Yeah, so wildness. So I think it was Moni. It's like, how manifestors work so fast. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take it. All right, friends. That was our
Morning, we need
tangent.
it. We need them. We need them to impact stuff. Thank you, Moana. All hail Moana. Yes,
Oh,
Moana.
please.
Right away, Moana.
Oh, that's an inside joke. So defined ajna. So this is Danny's territory, right? We learned that if you have a defined head, you also they come in pairs. You get a defined ajna as a bonus. So your blocks, if you have a defined ajna, can be that you are struggling with negative self-talk and negative beliefs, right? Limiting beliefs, or it's like, oh, I can't do this, or nothing ever works out for me. That could be a block coming from this center. Even feeling scared of being rejected, right? You're like worried that, if people
Fear of
won't
rejection.
share.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Mhm.
Yep. Fear of
People won't
rejection.
share your perspective, or won't support the ideas you have. So because you're like, oh, people are going to think this is odd. You just like keep it to yourself, and that turns into self-doubt and inertia, and you end up doing nothing, and you lack
Under
confidence and ability
pressure.
in yourself.
Under pressure,
Uh-huh.
pushing. So not only is it that way, but it's also that way 2 minutes from now, and it's that way later this afternoon, and it's that way freaking tomorrow when you got up, and it's because it won't stop. It's constant.
Uh-huh.
It's a life force working against you now,
Uh-huh.
cancerizing your brain. And slowly but surely, one way, shape, or form. Bear that in mind. Uh, Health and sickness is the function of the not self. There's no sickness that doesn't come in through the not self. That's ultimately
Mm.
from the very first cell that finally didn't go apoptosis, and you know what I mean, broke. That was a stress of the not self life somewhere that finally
Mm.
broke.
Yep.
I'm gonna start a heart condition 20 years from now, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, there's something also to note. You know, powwow. That's such a cute username. Uh, Pointed out. So sometimes you can have blocks if you have undefined centers and vice versa. So don't think that it's like, oh, there's something wrong with me if I have a block, but I have undefined center here, or I have a shadow when I'm defined. Like there's some overlap here, so that it's very possible that it can kind of go both ways. Conditioning is conditioning is conditioning. So what flavor
True.
it comes in, it's like enjoy. But yeah, where was I? Right. You can end up feeling overwhelmed, right? So because your mind and your ajna center is always on, you can end up in an anxiety spiral too.
Let me tell you how that anxiety looks, because I was
Oh,
on an anxiety
let's hear
medication
it.
for the longest time. These were severe debilitating
Oh.
panic attacks before I woke up to my nature.
Mhm.
And I had to take this alprazolam thing that was enough to knock out an adult lion at one point,
Yep.
so it's always on, just like I said, because there's a life force there pressuring it. I have the channel of abstraction, 64 47, and it's wicked abstract, and so it's mental overload. I love the next one, your decision paralysis. I don't want to decide. I don't even want to look, because I look into it and I recognize all the things that my mind will now start to pressurize itself to know and to come to this realization about, to have its aha moment. And we have to recognize everything and all that pressure going into the ajna. There's 6 gates, activations in that ajna center, right?
Mhm.
So it's more opportunity for it to be activated. So maybe 45, 44, 5 or 6% of the planet has a defined ajna. Probably about 43% I will go with, has a defined ajna. Each one of those activations is a natural fear, a mental fear. So the anxiety of
Mm.
that can be, I want everyone out there who's had any kind of anxiety condition, defined or not, just to recognize all the shades of this anxiety. And they're always mental detail oriented over 3 things: the confusion over the past, what we don't know to do in the future. So we're screwed. You know what I mean? The mental, right, decision paralysis, and then the right now. And too much right now, it's like a Gatling gun, just like, please stop, like being beaten. And then now it's like, stop already. So
Mhm.
it's all of this stuff, like, and it's powerful because it's in a life force. None of
Mhm.
that's who we are. That's who we're not.
So I think you were talking about time a
I got
lot.
over
So
it. Human
I was.
design cured
Mm.
ultimately cured my spot.
Yeah, and I mean Tressa, who was a guest on our spleen episode, right? She talked about all the medication she was on before she started living out her experiment. It's incredible.
It's
Like
incredible.
the minute you start living your design, things just like start falling away. That wasn't ever you to
In
begin with,
line. They fall
right?
right in line. Yep.
Yep. And then the last thing, which again Danny kind of mentioned, is you might be dwelling in the past, right? You're overthinking things and you're fixating on situations that are beyond your control. You cannot control the past; it's already happened. And the anxiety comes from when you're worrying about the future, right? And the future is also something you can't control. So when you're living in the past or living in the future, these are some blocks that can arise. But
And
let's just. Yep,
to
sorry.
do all of it, I'll be quick with this one. I know we're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
move. Yeah, this is a long one, guys. No way around it.
I get
And
it.
but so these 6 fears that do come out of it, this is the high expression of fear. Fear drives intelligence. It just does. So open whether it's defined or it's open, you're supposed to let the fears go through, and everyone will recognize the fear of
Mm,
chaos into the future. It won't work. Chaos of the irrationality. I can't even make sense right now. The irrationality, the fear of oppression, too much stuff. I'm oppressed with the mountain of pressure coming in on me about the past, fear of rejection coming from below, fear of darkness. Your ideas will get spoken into the dark. You don't mean anything, and fear of
mm,
this confrontation and this fight that the gate 17 always has to go through to make its opinion be heard, because it's almost a confrontational process because it's so new. Concepts in the now. It's these fears
mm.
just work naturally though. When all that stuff's happening and these fears run through, it's like, oh, look at that. I got Do I need to be smarter on that? Well, I'm open and open. I don't care right now. Okay, I'll find when the right timing comes on, my strategy and authority will tell me. I only
Mhm.
thought I had to be afraid of that.
You did
Fear drives.
remind me of a thing. I don't know if you've watched the Dune movie. I'm sure people in the
I
chat
did.
have. But there
I
is
did.
that litany of fear, right? I will let fear wash over me. Was
Yes.
was one of the things.
Yes, it was of the warriors, I recall, right? And they were so
Uh,
calm and still.
it
Was it
was
my
the Benny Gesserit that had that saying, I think.
Okay.
Because Jessica, the Benny Gesserit, was like speaking that in the movie at least. Love
Well,
Dune, yeah.
they were all
Fear is
warriors
the
in that
mind
movie.
killer. There you go.
It's a mind killer until you see that it's also a natural
Yeah,
genetic
see,
process.
Ichabod
Because
knew the thing. It's the litany against fear, and it's the Benny Gesserits. Those are the women priestesses.
oh, that's amazing.
Fear is the
Fear.
little death. Mm-hmm.
But hold on a second. We have to tease this out because the fear starts, and the trick is to allow it to just pass through and gain its intelligence. All fear is, we've learned that fear is bad, but all fear is I noticed something I didn't notice a nanosecond earlier. Do I need to fear it? Do I need to fear it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a reasonable question, right? Oh, it's getting
Right.
cloudy. The temperature dropped. The roads might be icy. Do I need to concern myself with that? Yes, you do.
Oh, so we have an interesting comment that popped up here. Let me see if I can get my mouse to work. Right. So we have a comment here saying, I have the channel 1762, and I was also conditioned to be extra logical.
Well, then you're lucky in that way if that was the way the conditioning went in your household, growing up and so forth. But then so you know what it's like to always have a concept factory that has its various pressures to basically derive logical opinions out of the ordering of what could have been chaotic but isn't because you're so smart. You just had that pour through connected with gate 62, which is loaded with the details to vocalize all of that. This is a verbal manifesting channel in a sense. Um,
Hmm.
Outside of its strategy and authority, it speaks with too much authority. Outside of
Hmm.
its strategy and authority, when
Oh,
it's
there
not
you go.
listening to it.
Ichabod gave us the entire thing. There it is. See? So I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it is gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So that's the litany, like the
I
whole
have
thing.
goosebumps. Look who showed it to us, the logical man that wanted us to see this move into the future with all the details. Just shared his opinion with us. Thanks, bro. I assume you're a dude. Thanks, man.
Yeah, this is the thing from Dune.
I
This
know, but Dune didn't
oh
share it with us.
yeah,
This guy did.
yeah.
Ichabod. Ichabod. Thank you, bro.
Ichabod did. Yes, yes. But yeah, he went and grabbed us the whole fear. So yeah, it's my
Why did
my hubby
Ichabod
has a
know where
card
to
of it.
grab that? Why did he know where to grab that? Why did he
Why
have
did he
that some
know?
logic?
He
Hold on.
says I am in fact Dune.
Right, right, exactly. How did he have that
Wee.
category? He had that categorized where to go get that. He had the details, is my point.
Oh right. Okay. Where were we? Did we go through this? Right, we were going to go into the high expressions. We're getting sidetracked here. Okay, so if you're in the high expression of your ajna, you are, certain in your convictions, and you can, and it fuels your success, right? It's like, you know what? I'm certain whenever I see this like defined ajna, I was like, especially with kids. Whenever someone has a kid, I'm like, ooh, let me look up their chart. And when I
Right,
see
right,
the
right.
defined ajna, I'm like, ooh, yeah. They are going to have their way about doing things, and there's no way you as a parent is going to think
That's
another way.
exactly right. That's exactly
Just
right.
like enjoy that. But yeah, I think Jesse has those. No,
I'm pretty
never
sure
mind. Our whole family is empty heads and empty ajnas. Never mind. Ignore what I said. But they trust that the next step will.
it's open, it's not empty.
Yes, I just
Mhm.
like saying empty. I just think it's fun. Um,
Okay,
but
that's
I know what
cute.
you mean. What was I saying? So you choose to have empowering viewpoints to shape your reality instead of debilitating ones, right? You have an optimistic outlook, and you're like, you
Yes.
know what? The best possible things are working out, and you can find inner peace, right? You might not be able to get it completely quiet, but you're able to, you know, deal with it better, if that makes sense, right? And it'll bring you clarity and direction, and you are a master at deep thinking and information processing when you are in your high expression, and you have an unwavering conviction, right? And resistant to external influence. You're an independent thinker. That's why you have that defined,
Yep, yep. So
right?
this is exactly right, and the high expression of this defined ajna is quietly humming along, just quietly humming along. Every farmer knows they in the winter, they leave their tractor just running when it's wicked cold. Just let it run. It's always humming along,
Hmm.
to stay going, never stops.
Cool.
Yep.
So how you defield my my words heal, wow, heal defined head sector blocks, right? So we kind of touched on this. You know, you cultivate belief in possibility, right? Anything's possible, anything can be achieved, and you shift your perspective, right? You know, you choose a state that's more positive and more focused, right? Less all over the place. And the limiting beliefs that you do have. So this is something interesting. So the self-help space slash personal development space is very obsessed with healing, right? It's like, I need to heal my this, I need to heal my that. If I don't heal these things, I'm like a broken person. And one of the things that they talk about is like limiting beliefs a lot, right? And when you have a defined head, or actually I made a mistake there, that's supposed to be defined ajna, but anywho, when you look at those, people look and go like, ooh, you know, those beliefs are much more deep rooted, so it's going to take a little bit more work to pull those weeds
Because it's
out.
a belief, it's a knowing, it's a
Mhm.
realization, it's a formula, it's an opinion. These are the names of the gates I just rattled off
Mhm.
in the Ajna Center, and they have their corresponding aspects.
Mhm.
There's a certainty to it. The Ajna
Mhm.
Center, and so the real trick is when you recognize, hey, just because I'm certain doesn't mean I'm right, is actually a really
Ooh.
healthy spot for you to just have that
Ooh.
humbleness and the humility. You'll know when you know you're right, by the way, on certain things. And if you're gonna
Ah.
stick your guns and grounds on a thing, that's okay too. The people who are right for you will still love you regardless. That's the point. It's a good way of if you
Mm.
ever define Ajna, a great way to vet the folks is that they put up with it. Because it's not
Yeah.
supposed to be putting up with it. It's supposed to be just like, "This is great," just like you're gonna put up with their crap. You know what I mean? So, it's a mutual thing, and it becomes mutually beneficial. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay, so our last center for the night is our throat center, right? So this is, like we mentioned, where all the things end up meeting, and we have our self-expression, our action, our getting recognition happens because we say what's internally going on and express it outwardly through this center. Your physical association of the throat is your thyroid and your parathyroid glands. And you have anything to add?
The thyroid and the parathyroid, don't forget what it was. Don't forget, realize what it does. This is a messenger to the whole body. That's why all the roads lead to it, because it's messaging out to get all the data. And once it does it, it's right in the throat box. When the larynx dropped for the humans about 100,000 years ago, we went from being able to articulate grunts and groans to being able to do what we do now. Took about 10,000 years to really start to work out some of that stuff, but now we're singing operas and talking human design, quickly. So yeah,
Mm,
it gets
mm.
when it gets overworked, if it's defined, it can get overworked. When it's undefined, it gets overworked.
Well, we're going right into the defined. So most of the population has it defined. I can't remember the exact percentage, but
About 73%.
about 72%, right? So most of the population has this, has some blocks, right? You can fear of being judged. So because of that, you just don't say the thing because you're like, you know what? I don't really want to be criticized, so I'm just not going to say it. Or you speak at the wrong time. So you just kind of blah, blah, like word vomit it out. And, you can immediately tell that was not the right time to say that thing. Or the way you're communicating is directly clashing with your strategy and authority. Um, you want to be accepted. There's a people pleasing tendency, so you just don't say anything. I am guilty of this. Repulsive communication, the way your words are pushing people away because they're just abrasive, the way you're delivering whatever you're delivering. And another expression is you think what you say doesn't matter, so it doesn't matter, so I'm just not going to say anything at all, so you just keep it all in.
To go along with all that low expression,
Hmm.
it's this
Oops,
sense,
wrong way.
yeah, it's the sense that would all get totally fixed as you start to see your strategy and authority work the right timing. And if you notice on all these centers, and in fact, for every slide for the rest of the life of this show over the decades, we'll keep coming back to this timing because it's your strategy and authority and your uniqueness that understands the right timing with the other. As you start to find it, you find your wisdom. It's where it comes. It's suddenly you start to realize that wasn't my timing. And because the
Mhm.
open throat is trying to express, it thinks it wants to express. It's wondering why it's not expressing more. It's
So
just
this
like
is
an
the
open,
defined throat. We're talking about the defined throat first.
oops,
Yeah, we're
you
going to
stopped
the
me at a
open
good
one.
spot. I would have
Yeah,
gone
yeah.
on.
Yeah. No, we're getting there. Just this is not the right slide for it. So the
I'm sorry,
high
Moana. That's
expression.
me.
Oh, no worries. The high expression is, your voice is powerful, and when you're expressing yourself, that it is attracting the right people into your life and into your circles, and you will get visibly noticed and recognized, right? And you deserve to be seen and heard, right? And there's the gap where you're connecting what's happening all inside of you and you're connecting it to the inner world because, you're speaking it out loud.
Right.
And you know that your voice and your action carries weight, it carries power, and you are confident in whatever you create. And be mindful of your words, right? What is that book, The Five Agreements, I think, right? And one of the things he said is like, your words are magic. It could be white magic, it could be black magic. So be very, very mindful of how you choose to use your words. And you are consistent with your tone and your style and how you express
You
yourself
got a
when you're.
voice.
Hmm.
Yeah. You've got a
And
voice that's named on the, it's the names of the gates in your throat center are the names of your voices. And it's a really great spot to go for anyone because you just look at the keynotes and you start to realize, oh my God, that is my voice.
and your aligned communication fuels powerful creation. So that is your high expressions. So how you heal your throat center blocks, if you have a defined throat, is express your voice and keep doing it, because the more you do it, the more of the right people and the right opportunities are going to come to the authentic you, right?
Be
And
yourself.
right, be yourself, and what you do and what you express is valuable, and people see value in it.
And if it's not valuable, you're not with the right people.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
So that takes us to the undefined throat shadows. So
Mm.
you crave attention, right? You feel like nobody sees you, nobody hears you, so you kind of l- try extra hard to feel validated through your throat. There's a lot of negative self-talk, and that can actually cause you to not get the things you want, right? You might talk too much or talk over people because you're just trying to fill the space. Yes, Danny.
Talking too much is a big deal. So there's talking not enough and talking too much. And just to stick with those two things, like so primarily when you're in your experiment, actually, never mind. Just if you're just listening to us, start to witness if you have an open throat that this happens to you and it's hard to admit because you feel like an idiot if you're the one that spoke too much, right? It's because
Mm,
it's a terribly personal thing. It's very revealing, and it's almost like, hey, sorry, don't look at me, or
mhm,
whatever. Admit this to yourself. Just admit it and see it and find out, oh my God. Then you can start seeing it dispassionately and with the right clarity to allow this beautiful process to do what it does. It diagnoses for you, you, gets you back you. If you ever want to
mhm,
know where you are, you're here.
mhm. Right. So I feel like there's like again there's a my brain. It's a two-way thing, right? It's either you constantly need to talk to fill the silence, or whatever you're saying is also feeling like it's not being heard at all. So you end up feeling frustrated. It's like speaking so much and I'm speaking so loudly and nobody's hearing me. I'm screaming like what is even happening right now? And it just be this like negative cycle of like trying to be louder and louder and louder and nobody's hearing it, which is just how it ends up being
I speak too
energetics.
much. You'll
Mhm.
notice because you won't feel good. Start to notice that the second you start speaking more than you're supposed to and have used up more than your allotted quota of words, literally, you'll know it. And it'll be quickly, and you'll suddenly start realizing I don't feel good with the pressure I'm having to exert on myself to keep talking.
Mhm.
It'll start to hurt.
Right.
Yet
And
you'll keep
exactly.
doing
So
it like a drunk trying to drink booze and it knows it's supposed to stop. And it's
right.
like,
You just took
why?
us right to our last point, right? Because of that, it ends up getting to you, right? You end up feeling unimportant, right?
Mhm.
And you know, you, and you just don't know what to do other than like forcing your voice further to try and feel that
Yeah,
important.
yeah, to the point of screeching. Welcome to a thyroid problem. Welcome to a sore throat the next morning. Welcome to Bill Clinton's about 10 different cases of laryngitis through his presidencies. Open throat. And he had like 9 of
Mm,
11 activations. So talk about a predisposition for conditioning, right? Of all the different
mm,
ways Bill could speak, you know? Wasn't he
ooh,
Teflon Bill, the master orator? He could speak his way out of anything. Remember? So, I mean, if you
mm,
remember, yeah.
right. So well, I was living in India at the time, so there's only so much I remember.
That's
But the
all
high
good.
expression of the undefined throat, right, is your
You
your manif-
sing. You
your sig-
sing.
right. So you have your desires are very clear, but you know what they are, but you know it's okay if the specific phrases aren't coming out, if that makes any sort of sense. And there's silence is very powerful, right? Not saying anything can say 1,000 things.
Because you're open to all the forms of expression and action. Throat center, this beautiful upside of this expression and the high expression of it all is manifestation, articulation. That's what this thing does. This throat center, the hub of the body, which sends its energy and its signals out back in to know what to do, what to say. That's a big deal because sometimes I'm going to go move a mountain. Sometimes I'm going to give a speech, whatever it is. It's so much that open or defined. Are we on the open or we're on the undefined high
Or
expression?
on the
Good.
undefined, yeah. So
Yeah,
you know
you
how you
become
can tell is
aware
the
and
picture.
wise of all the ways in which you could articulate, and sooner or later it becomes a tapestry, like that paint palette with the painter and their 100 different colors at the tip of their brush, and they can paint anything they want. If you're defined like me, you're a one-hit Charlie. You're on 10 trying to convince somebody of something and have a breakthrough. These are the gates in my throat. And pointing at it at the same time. So it's funny.
So we have a great question here. What's the difference between a gate active in an undefined center?
Okay, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think you're asking what's the difference between when gates are active in defined centers versus undefined centers. I think if I read
No,
at
I
least
think if I'm reading that, I think it's like, what's the difference between an undefined center with a gate active versus a completely open center?
clarify that question, sugar sweet, when you get a chance. But either way, when the gate that activation is in an open center, it becomes a flavor of that open center. Open centers do
Mm,
the actual action of their keynote, like this throat center, manifesting and articulating. That's what it does intermittently in its own timing. That's why it's got to get so used to its way so it can intermittently articulate and do things and be the manifester of the moment for themselves. So that gate becomes a flavor in it. A huge one, and it becomes a huge source of the flavor of the not self of the open center, in a big way. Hopefully
Hmm.
that we
Yeah.
both
So
is
I.
interesting. That's so funny. So this is an open throat person, open throat ajna person.
Yeah, yeah. So I was right. She meant undefined versus open.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Amazing. We did the thing. What was the next thing? Because we still have one more thing to get to after this, which is the we
Man,
call
we
it the
just have to
lab
make peace.
section.
We have to make peace with a 2-hour broadcast. We chose a lot to go over, so just
Oh
it's
no, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. Oh, this is almost that. But anywho, the thing that I really wanted to cover here is so open throat people are I like to think of them like megaphones, right? They're speaking for people, if that makes sense, right? That's what they're open. They're honing in on other people's voices and speaking on behalf of them. So they're incredibly powerful when they're in their high expression.
And they're singers, and both literally and the singing is that empowers the other. The manifestation and the articulation doesn't work without the other. When you have an open throat center, it's so important that the others in your life are are the right people for you. And obviously, we have all of our bodies. Every human body does the same thing. It's got this binary of I like it, I don't like it. It's not just a generator thing, and it feels good or not. And so when your friends feel good, you know you have the right friends. And the ones that don't doesn't mean you don't get away from them. It just means you start to look elsewhere
Hmm.
quietly as yourself. You
Hmm.
it your articulation when you're open throat happens only in response and according to the timing of your type, your strategy, and your authority. And it's so
Hmm.
important you get read and get to know this so that we can get you there. It's
Hmm. So apparently, Lady Gaga has a completely open throat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That most singers have an open throat. If you take all the great singers in the world, you'll find a disproportionate, given that only 25% of the people have a open throat on or about.
Hmm.
Um, you'll
And
find
then
that more than 25% of the singers are open throat.
one of the
Much
last points before going to the healing slide is so you're really living your high expression is when whatever you're saying is landing. You got the right timing
Yes.
and you're speaking with a purpose when you have an
Mhm.
undefined throat. So, healing the shadows of your undefined throat is you allow yourself to be open for the perfect words to just flow effortlessly. So, Moni is a master of this. Like, she has no plans, and all the most beautiful, wonderful words just like flow out of her.
Can we bring
And
her
it's just
on?
like, how did you do that? Like, I don't think she's in the chat right now.
Okay.
Um,
I
but
want you
um,
back.
what was I going to say? So the healing journey empowers them to be seen, and people are drawn to them, right? Aw, making you melt. But yeah, the nice juicy part is that Danny is going to show his shadows and his blocks and
What? I was supposed to do
his high expressions of his chart. So buckle up, chat. This is gonna be fun.
did I know about this? What am I supposed to
Oh,
do?
oh, does Moni want to come on? No, Moni doesn't want to come on. I don't know what's happening. Oh no, maybe yeah. So
I love this.
Moni,
What am I
you
supposed
can dissect Danny's chart and
What am I supposed to do? Hurt me, Moni. Hurt me. It's
Oh my
best if we
goodness.
this was part of the deal, right? We sort of went over this. I was supposed to go through what was I supposed to do here? I forgot already.
I
Do
don't
you
know. I just
remember?
heard my name.
Oh man, okay. Let me direct you again. So what
I'll
you're
do
doing is pretend this is like the science lab portion of the stream. So
perfect.
all the nice concepts we talked about, now we're going to demo it through an actual body graph, and in this
Perfect.
case, it's Danny.
So that means mostly we were dealing with head, ajna, throat.
That's it. Those are the
So you
centers we
don't want me to
covered today.
keynote these all these open centers down at the
No,
bottom.
no, only the first three. That's all you got to do. And you talk
Yeah.
about your low and your high that you've experienced throughout your life for the first three. That's it.
There's been an excitement in my defined head and ajna center to burst bubbles. I'll never forget. Yeah, because I would have this sudden confusion to clarity process that would just want to. I have to bring in the extra aspects of my design because there's a manifesting generator there, just trying to, bully the thing into existence. So as a kid, that was something that it became an expression that I had to learn to cope with. I'll never forget because this pressurized center always needed to express the doubt and the confusion. And doubt and confusion, when you have both gates, that's also part of the cross of consciousness. It's there trying to aware itself of the expectations of consciousness for our form. And it's a big deal. Never wanted to stop talking, ever. And I mean, and then you add in the rest of these open centers, and it wasn't sure if it should stop talking because it knows it can, but it's like trying to prove things I didn't want to prove, because that would happen all the time. And the ajna center being defined in my body graph, this split was really one of the biggest conditioning factors in my life before I knew what it was. As a young child, it was nothing but mystery. The split being from 23 down to, excuse me, from 43 at the bottom of my ajna center down to the throat. I'm missing gate 23. It's what makes me a split definition. One gate would hook up this split. When it's not there, gate 23, assimilation, again, it's an expression of the throat. Its expression is it wants to say, I know. That's its voice.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I know, I know, I know. Don't worry, I know. Hey, I think I know. Which I know. It's got all these different ways of, I know. Hey, hey, blah blah blah. Answer loves to answer. I know to the question. It's got an energy that would say, I know. So what would happen with Gate 43? It would bully people that I was disagreeing with I know, and out would come the frustration of my manifesting generator that would suddenly get so frustrated, it could just blow up with what it
Mm-hmm.
didn't know
Mm-hmm.
and with what it and at the same time the beauty was all these concepts would come through, and when I was with the right people, suddenly my gate 43, if you don't know what it is, it's this gate of insight, breakthrough. The I Ching had this insightful breakthrough that suddenly, only in the now, only in a magic pulse, meaning the timing is outside of my control. I have nothing to say with it. Suddenly, I have an awareness of a new realization that acts like an aha moment. That's what this configuration says. And it was so powerful, but without 23, it needs to leap over the empty center. So what does that look like? Just like that, the bull trying to leap over the china shop pieces and think it's not going to break them and make a mess and make more energy than it needed to. All of this coming out of a manifesting generator with endless energy to say, I know, without 23. So whenever I was put on the spot, guess what? I couldn't explain and come up with the explanations of what 23 would do to say, I
Mm-hmm.
know. So pressurized certainty from a defined head and ajna under pressure to say I know, because that's its only vocal gate. 43 is all of this action of the head and the ajna points only through 43. Everything comes through. I have a sudden insight. I have another insight. Oh my God, I have another insight. If you watch my body language while Moana was talking, and so same with you, while anyone's talking, if it's something I'm passionate about or I know, my body's constantly about to say the next thing, about to say that. If you watch closely, you'll see like 100 little ticks inside of me that was about to say the thing. It can become tiring. Um, and it becomes this type of expressive thing that suddenly I don't know if I'm worthy. Did I say too much? Did I look stupid? And, all of these things would have crept through in my past life. Now I just have to recognize when it's not the right timing. That's it. And it's been hard because it was the primary conditioner of that one gate. That split is a primary conditioner in my life, as much so as the other four open centers together was this. And then having an open throat center, I would sometimes be so uncomfortable with the release of the power that I felt like when I released the power, I would have to release too much just to prove that I could. You know what I mean? Because now that I started, I better do it on 10. That got me in a lot of trouble. Trouble that was a confrontation I would try to avoid like there's no tomorrow. It would put me under so much pressure. I wouldn't know what to do. Next thing you know, I start holding on to ideas of something I think I want to lie about to get out of it. To just lie about it. Just I would choose to. I would, as a kid, in my high school years and moving on, there were many, many times I would just fib, say something that wasn't so, say something about myself, Try to avoid, and with a busy mind, now suddenly I'm under pressure thinking about all the things I might be caught lying about. You know what I'm saying? Because my head won't stop talking, and I don't want to get caught at it. So to be terribly embarrassing. I'll look stupid. Girls won't like me. You know, I won't be worthy. Some other dude will get the girl, for instance. That was a large portion of my 20s and late teens, right? Because that open ego center, and, you know, with all this power to move now, that always worked now. Um, so it was a hell of a head trip. And yeah, I did have to keynote the open centers. For anyone who didn't notice, I was keynoting the open spleen, root, solar plex, ego center, will, heart there.
Can you
Well,
go
no,
through and explain them to people watching?
yeah, the on the left, the open spleen with one activation, gate 44. It's the fear of the past, is what its fear is supposed to be looking at, and it's supposed to become intelligent over what the tribe survives like, and it's supposed to cool down the heat of the ego so we can have a level flow, a logical, survivable flow for the tribe right now and forever. It's the spleen, moment to moment, sudden instinctualness about we might go extinct. You know, hey, be careful. That could be an extinction level event. So where does my awareness go? Towards that. In my life as a kid, where would that have been? It would have been towards my extinction over, will I get the girl or not? You know, or will I have the next new exciting experience? Will all my friends think it was the greatest because I just made it all happen? I was Mr. Make It Happen, except I thought I had to, or else everything would go extinct. All the stuff I started to do will suddenly the tribe will fall apart if I don't. That was my gate 44, trying to hold on to that. Hold on to what isn't good for me. Hold on to making all that happen. Dude, I was the source of every keg party in town in my high school years from about sophomore year on. Not everyone, but substantially. It was Edwards. What's Edwards? Where's Edwards going to have the kegger? What's the Edwards? I wanted to be there. I felt like I had to, but I was so happy when I was there until pressure got put on me to make decisions I didn't feel like doing, you know? And so I'd be holding on to all of that. And the pressure of the route that was just simple. That was just always in a hurry. I never went slow. Everything was, let's go fast. Let's just 1, 2, 3, go. I'd drop everything and start running. It was like Forrest. It was like Forrest Gump. I would just start running. Someone said the thing. Like, okay, bam, let's go. I start running, thinking that was cool. Always looking back 2 seconds later, Stan, the timing of that socially faux pas wise was stupid. You look like an idiot. You look like an immature little child, you know? And I was. And so that was hard. And then open ego would be like, dude, the girl you were trying to talk to is going to think you're stupid, and she's going to go talk to that handsome person who's better than you. You know, that was this big, long thing. And then my one activation in my solar plex center would be that gate 6. So my whole solar plex center is over the conflict of, am I open or not to this union? And that's with friends and, you know, a partner. So they were both there. Am I open or not to this union? Will I create more conflict or less as it relates to even getting close to this person? My second line personality, will I even open my shell to let this person in? Oh my God, I have. Now I'm super bold. Shyness to boldness, over and over again. And here comes that solar plex center saying, am I even supposed to? Am I even supposed to? And and if I wasn't sure, it would be in conflict and it would lie. Oh yes, no, honey, I'll be there. Oh no, I still like you. I didn't, you know, or or the opposite. Suddenly now I'm holding on to, I love you too much. Don't leave me. That was a big one. You know what I'm saying? That was a big one. I was broken after each breakup, and it was always a one-way breakup. You know, they left me, and that was how I saw it. So what did I have? I had extinction level events of my spleen trying to hold on to with an ego veracity it does not have, onto the experience of the love my vessel felt for that amazing emotional experience, which was highly sexualized, under pressure to do whatever it took to get a hold of it again and make it not go away, lie to myself left and right, and convince myself through the explanations I was no good at that I would be able to do it because I didn't have a gate 23. And I was terribly distressed about what I wasn't able to convince them of in the moment, because I tried to think my way through it because I had such a powerful brain that always memorized the facts. It was just good. It just kept taking it in. And so suddenly in the moment, I would always say, I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, I'm going to say, I'm going to say, and I'm a generator, not ignoring my responsive strategy. And so what happens when the moment comes and the thing sort of happens? What am I going to say? I can't put the words together. No gate 23. Plus, I tried to rehearse it, which couldn't happen. So, how am I doing? And
I
my
mean, I'm enjoying.
okay.
Yeah, I think you went
Did
through a
I
lot
hit
of
the
really
head?
good.
Did I hit the head and ajna and throat enough?
Yeah, I think we can like maybe like tie a bow around it and kind of clarify of just like how, since you're a split definition, the reason why like the 43-23, why that is such a high conditioning factor. If you can maybe explain the context of that for people watching, because I think,
Yes,
you know, we've
good.
explained like the open centers and here's the conditioning there. Why is that? Why is a split definition of conditioning?
Good save, Moni. I would have skated right back over that. Well, I'll do it for this body graph specifically. So, gate 23 is such a conditioning factor because the not self of our humanity, all the way around ubiquitously, just count on it. It's there in everyone. It's there in you if you're listening right now. Is the attempt of the solo gate, a lone gate, to reach across the cavern to get to the other side when it's not there, to be the other side. Every gate, hanging gate activation wants to also be its missing counterpoint, its polarity on the other side. Here it's 40, it's 23. The assimilating, manifesting capacity to explain that crazy ass insight that came in. Dude, when that insight comes in, it's like the road runner speeding in with the Acme package delivery. You know what I mean? It's like, where did he come from? Zoom, it just shows up. Speed of light type stuff. Um, and I can't explain that. And it's wicked frustrating. And it becomes something I think I want to fix. And makes me open to every self-help program that can speak to that openness. Having trouble explaining yourself? You want a vocabulary that'll make sure oh yeah, I want that. Sign me up. Hey generator, do you really want it? Yeah, I think I want it. That sounds like a vocal response. Does it feel good to want that? Maybe. Are you sure you're going to do it? Mostly, no, right? What am I doing? I'm doing a question and answer with myself. And you start to see, I didn't want that stupid thing, but I did it. And what did I do? Felt stupid about it. Because if it didn't work, so these are all the ways to not allow the gates you have to try and condition you to be anything more than they are. I have incredible insights. You know when they show up? When Moni asks me a question and I get to be a good generator and respond, you know, that's when. Hey, when else, Dan? Aren't you supposed to be the best thinker, talker on the planet? No, I thought I was supposed to be when my open ego thought it felt worthless. I haven't done that in a long time, you know. Hey, Dan, are you always right? Because that insight comes through the confusion and the doubt of the pressure upstairs above me to this mental clarity that shows up. Aha, it says 47. I have a realization suddenly from the confusion. And then my insight wants to say it. And I don't always have the right explanation to tell people.
Hmm.
So it's perfect for me when I sit all by myself and muse over the half written texts that go out to 20 different people. Oh, look, I didn't finish one of them. That's okay. Or whatever. This half started things that only I got half a channel. I half start things. When the right timing comes along, guess what? I've got the serendipity to be in the right place at the right time as myself. And that's when it all works in a pulse according to my uniqueness.
Wow, that was real nice.
I
Wow,
hope I
that was mic drop.
That
I
was good.
that
Thank
was
you.
that
I
was
didn't know I was supposed
beautiful.
to talk about me. I mean, I remember now we went over this. We
You just
totally
need
went over.
something to respond to.
I
Yeah, it's
definitely said you're going to talk about you. But don't worry, next week Moni gets to talk about herself.
oh good. I got to lead. I was a leading example. Yay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So next episode we are
Got a lot
going
to live
to
up to. You're
do
gonna have to tell us all the stuff.
uh I mean you
And
gave
you
us
too. When are you doing it?
oh, after Moni.
Okay.
That would be the but I mean you gave us way more than I asked you to give us. So, bonus stuff for everyone. What was I going to say? So next episode we are going to go into the G center and the ego center and the spleen. So,
Mm,
bring your body graphs. It'll be a good time and
ask questions. Yeah.
love the questions in the chat. This is why we do this live, right? We're trying to differentiate this experience from just watching a YouTube video. or just, listening to a podcast. We like having this interactivity. So please do come watch us live, ask us questions in the chat. That's what makes this a fun
No,
community, which is what we're
no
trying to build out.
question. And absolutely, what you're looking at here is the talent pool to make sure this information splashes out into the world pretty profoundly. So you should join the tribe all the way
Yeah,
around. Pass it
please.
around. Tell your friends.
Exactly. Tell your friends, come watch, come give us a follow, like show us some love. A lot of work goes into making these streams happen. You have no idea. So,
Yeah, not to mention you get a little bit selfish. Fix the world around you by seeing what happens when you bring this into your life. It's amazing.
mhm, exactly. So, with that, friends, I bid you a wonderful night. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us, and we will see you same time next week. Cheers.
Adios.